Hi, everybody. I am so happy to welcome you here to our Junior Ranger Cub program. Sorry about the delay there. He's having a little bit problem getting it started. So welcome. We're coming to you from foggy Big Basin Redwood State Park. It was actually kind of raining here. Today's program is about snakes. And I see some of you know about the participants, the raise your hand. So I would like you, we're going to practice this. Raise your hand if you've ever seen a snake. Raise your hand, hit the hand raise if you've ever seen a snake. Now, this could be in your yard, at a zoo, out in a park, out in nature. I'm seeing quite a few hand raisings. That's great. So a lot of people are a little scared of snakes, and part of that could be because we don't understand them. So I have a friend here. Her name is Diane, and she has brought a snake. Can you see Diane in the background? Raise your hand if you can see Diane and her friend. We're going to bring her up a little bit closer in just a minute. This is her friend, Crafty. Crafty doesn't live here in the park. We don't have quite these big of snakes in the park, but Diane rescued Crafty and has taken care of Crafty for a long time. So we're going to talk about why snakes are important. We have quite a few snakes in this park. Snakes probably live where you are. They live everywhere in the world except for in our coldest places. They cannot handle cold places. They're big snakes that can be as big as a bus. And there are tiny snakes that are only slightly bigger than a quarter and as skinny as the end of your pencil. Crafty here is a big snake. Not as big as a school bus, but big. I'm going to switch places. Diane and I are practicing social distancing so that we're not right next to each other. So she's going to come up close, and I'm going to ask her some questions about her snake, and she's going to answer them. Okay? So everybody, go ahead and let's see, we'll put your hands down. And then we're going to lower all those hands. And now raise your hands if you want to say hi to Crafty. Raise your hands if you would like to say hi to Crafty the snake. Woo, I see a lot of people who want to say hi to Crafty. Okay, Diane, you come on in. Get right up close there. So this is Crafty the snake. Diane, what kind of snake is Crafty?
This is a common boa constrictor. Her ancestors probably came from Central America, and she is 18 years old.
18 years old. How old can Crafty get to be?
She could live to 25, 30 years in good health. Yeah, she's looking right at you. How do you like that? She's trying to taste you.
Now, what is she doing? She's got her tongue out there. I know that's one of the things that kind of maybe makes people uncomfortable. What are snakes doing with their tongue? Is she trying to bite or what?
No way. Now look at those tiny little eyes. Notice snakes do not have ears. There's no ears there. And notice also her nostrils are pointed backward. So to find out what's going on, she's using her tongue to find out what's in front of her. And if she were going to bite, her mouth would be open so wide you wouldn't be able to see anything.
So that's one of the things with snakes. Look at yourself, or if you have a friend in the room, and you have a nose, right? And we have a mouth. Well, Crafty has a nose and a mouth, but we can breathe with both, and we smell with our nose. Crafty smells with her tongue and uses her nose to breathe in and out. And like Diane says, she has her nostrils, her nostrils facing back, because every time she takes a breath, she doesn't want her prey. You know what prey means? Raise your hand if you know what a prey is. A prey is something she wants to eat. So as she slithers up to her prey, her breath is going back so she can surprise them. But her tongue is coming out and collecting information, collecting smells. And her tongue goes into her head. And in there, her tongue transfers her smells into her brain, and her brain says, ooh, is that something I can eat? So what does she eat, Diane?
She likes to eat rats, very big rats, bigger than her body around. And she takes a long time to eat it, maybe an hour, to slowly walk her jaws over the rat. And she swallows it whole, and she eats a rat once every 6 weeks or thereabouts. She could go much longer if she had to.
Raise your hand if you think that snakes have teeth. Do you think snakes have teeth? Raise your hand if you think they have teeth. Hey, a lot of people are raising their hand, and you are right. Those of you who raised your hand, they have teeth. I'm going to show you. This is the skull of a snake. Now it has some big fangs here, so it's a different kind of snake. Crafty doesn't have fangs. Fangs are for snakes like a rattlesnake. But do you see still all the tiny little teeth? They don't chew. Snakes don't chew their food. They use those teeth just to draw their prey back and to be able to bring it into them. But they swallow their food completely whole. They don't chew it like we do. So raise your hand. I'm going to lower everybody's hands. Raise your hand if you think snakes eat vegetables, plants. Raise your hand if you think snakes ever eat plants. Only a few people raising your hand. Once in a while, by accident, they might get something in there. But snakes, do you know the word for animals that eat meat? Carnivore. Snakes are carnivores, all snakes. You know, we have animals like deer that eat vegetables, that eat grass and plants, and we have animals that eat grass, plants, and meat, but snakes only eat meat. Let's have our snake here come back in. This is Crafty again, of course. Crafty's 18 years old. Crafty does not live here in Big Basin. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a redwood forest anywhere. Raise your hand if you've been to a redwood forest. Redwood forests are wet and cold here in Big Basin in California in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Today, it was so foggy that I had to have my windshield wipers on. And snakes can only really hunt when it's warm. So when it's this cold, they can't really hunt all year long. It gets very cold and wet in the winter. And if they can't hunt all year, they can't get big. Diane, how big of snakes do we have here in Big Basin?
Rattlesnakes are somewhat bigger. They can live a few years, and so the longer a snake lives, the bigger it gets. Gopher snakes can get to be 5 feet long. I saw one the other day that was almost 6 feet long. It was a long snake, so it was a very old gopher snake. Gopher snakes look a lot like rattlesnakes too. So we get some snakes, but never this big.
Diane, I bet some people are wondering, aren't you worried about that Crafty's gonna choke you? She is a constrictor, you said, right? And that means squeezing until her prey doesn't have air. Aren't you worried?
I'm not worried because I'm not her prey. She thinks I'm a tree, and therefore the tree, if the tree just gently sways in the wind, that's not going to upset her. But if this tree feels like there's a violent windstorm or an earthquake, oh my goodness, she would wrap around me so tight. And then all I would do is I would squeeze her back real tight and she'd let go.
So she would be worried that her tree was in a storm and that she was going to fall off. So she has no interest in biting me or in biting Diane. She only is holding on because she thinks Diane is like a tree. And Diane is warm. Diane, why is it important that you're warm? Why does she like that?
Snakes, they call it cold-blooded, but what it's really talking about is that she gets her warmth from whatever's around her. So my being warm is going to give her a little bit of warmth. Come on up here. And therefore, she wants to be a little bit warmer, but it also makes a difference in how quickly and easily she can find her warm-blooded prey.
So that's why snakes like to live in warm areas, because they can only get warm if there's somewhere that it is warm. That's why they like to be sometimes on roads, that hot pavement. That's why they like to be on rocks where it's warm. A lot of animals, even if when they hunt at night, they still come out during the day and they'll lay out there in the sun and warm up, and that helps them to move better so that they can capture their prey. So how does she find her prey? You said that being warm-blooded, she goes after creatures that show that they're warm. What do you mean by that?
Well, she's first looking for, with her smell, for the right smell, the smell that she likes to eat. Secondly, when she gets close, all boas and all pythons, as well as pit vipers, have heat sensors. In boas and pythons, it's in their upper lip, right there near the front. And they have heat sensors like night vision goggles. They can sense the heat and really zero in on where their prey is. And that's what rattlesnakes need when they're trying to find their prey.
I have another question. So I'm going to lower everybody's hand here. And my question is, do humans shed their skin? You might have heard that snakes shed their skin. Raise your hand if you think humans shed their skin. Do humans shed skin? Do you shed skin? So I'm seeing a lot of hand raised that you shed skin. You're right, but we do it all the time. Our skin flakes off and new little cells are growing, so just a few cells at a time, but we are always shedding. But a snake does it differently. I'm going to show you. This actually comes from one of Diane's snakes, and it's real. That's the bottom, the really big scales that they have on the bottom that helps them move. And here is the top of theirs with tiny, tiny little ones. And this came from one of Diane's snakes. She gave it to me. And they shed. And I'm going to have Diane explain how that happens and why they have to do that. Raise your hand. Hold on for the question. Raise your hand if you have ever heard of this or seen a shed of a snake. A lot of people have. It's pretty cool to find this, huh? All right, Diane, come in and tell us how Crafty sheds and why does she shed?
So she's getting bigger, so her skin gets bigger, and she needs to get rid of the old skin once in a while. It takes 2 or 3 weeks. She starts getting darker and darker because the blood in her body is going toward her skin, making the new skin. She gets really cranky. You can't touch a snake when they are growing their new skin. It bothers them a lot. Then after a few weeks, she even becomes very gray and pale and may even cover her eyes because her eyes have one clear scale over her eyes. And when that's growing a new skin, she cannot see.
There's a scale. This is a shed from a different snake, and you can actually see that it has a scale over the eye too. Did you know that? They have scales over their eyes, helps protect their eyes.
So then she has to, when she's ready, she has to start pushing her nose and her chin and get that skin starting to come off. And then it just rolls back. She peels it off, rolling it back this way on her body, all the way back, so that it comes off like a sock inside out.
So if you've ever pulled off a sock, maybe even kind of a wet sock, and you start rolling it down from your foot and peeling off. So she has to rub up against the ground or a rock or something like that, and it comes off, and she has to, doesn't have any legs, right? That's the one thing with a snake, they don't have any legs. So she has to rub it off, and it takes a while. And you said she's grumpy before it comes off. Is she still grumpy after it comes off?
Once that skin starts coming off and she gets it all off, she's a happy camper, especially when it all comes off and she gets to show off her new soft skin.
How often does a snake like Crafty shed? Is it every week? Is it once a year?
So she sheds after every 2 or 3 feedings. So about every 6 months or so, she grows a new skin and becomes a brand new snake.
Now, wait a minute. You just said she feeds after every few months, she sheds. How often does a snake eat? What?
Snakes eating a big item of food are going to take a week to digest, and then they're going to be fine for months. They don't need to eat that often, a big snake. Now, a small snake, like a little garter snake, they're going to eat something that takes, again, a couple of days to completely digest, and then they can go for weeks. The small snakes go for a couple of weeks without food.
So a couple weeks for a small snake. A snake of Crafty size can go months, and some snakes can even go almost a year without eating. So that'd be pretty amazing, right? Could you do that? Raise your hand if you think you could go a year without eating. I see a couple people who think they could go a year without eating. I think we'd be hungry. We need to feed all of our muscles and our bones to keep growing our bones and such. But mostly we have to stay warm so that we can keep moving. A snake, like Crafty Diane has told me, can stay curled up in one position for weeks. Maybe today, have someone time you, see how long you can stay still in one curled up position, like crouching on the ground. Can you do it for 4 minutes, 2 minutes, an hour? We have to move or we get stiff, and a snake doesn't have to do that. I have a question for you. Let me lower all your hands. All right, don't put any hands up yet. Does a snake have any bones? Raise your hand if you think a snake has any bones at all, or is it more like a worm? Raise your hand if you think a snake has bones. I see some hands going up. That's right. Snakes have a lot of bones. I think because we see them moving on the ground, we maybe think of worms, but a snake is a kind of animal called a vertebrae, just like you. If you reach back, you can feel your bones in your back, your spine, your backbone. That's what a snake has. And then in the front, if you breathe in and out, you can feel those ribs. And that's what a snake has too. And that helps them move. All their muscles are attached there, and it helps them move. Diane, has Crafty ever had any babies?
Crafty has not had any babies. I try to keep her separate from the other male snakes, and I try to keep all the females separate because there are enough pets on the planet that need homes as it is. So I don't think we'll need to have any more babies, but she nevertheless has always been waiting around for a chance to have some babies, and that's why she likes to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger so that she can go for a year easily without having to worry about food. And then she will be able to have all 35 babies at once.
Wow. So some parents in the animal world don't eat the whole time that they are having baby, when they're pregnant with their babies, and sometimes afterwards for a while feeding babies. They don't eat. Elephant seals don't eat for a long time after having babies. So she wants to be big and strong and have enough food in her so she can take care of her babies. I'm going to lower your hands. Raise your hand if you have ever seen or know what this is. Look at that. What do you think that might be? I have a few of them here. Some of you are guessing. It's hard in this light. Let's see if I can get a better view of it. This is kind of squishy. This is a snake egg. Not all snakes are born out of the mother snake as an egg. Some are born live, but these are some eggs. What kind of snake was this from?
This was a king snake.
A king snake. So these are some king snake eggs. If you've ever heard of a king snake, they live around here too. It's kind of like a ping pong ball, a little bit squishy. These are a little older, so they're kind of falling apart a little bit. They're dried up some. They'd be a little moister if they were in a real snake there. I've had them for a long, long time, so they're getting pretty dried up, but I think they're pretty awesome. I'm going to lower your hands. Raise your hand if you think you've ever seen anything like that. Isn't that amazing? Snake eggs, but as I said, some of them are born live. So come on in.
Now, these eggs are the old dried up shells, and you can see the crack, hopefully there, where the new baby snake opened up a little place and came out. And then the person who collected these was able to get them round again somewhat, and let them dry kind of round.
I've got a question for you. I'm going to put your hands down. Just a second. Raise your hand if you think that snakes want to attack you. All snakes are kind of pretty mean. Raise your hand if you think snakes are really wanting to just attack humans. You know, and I think that's part of the reason, not too many people raising their hands, and you're right. Snakes are mostly pretty shy. They don't have a lot of ways to protect themselves. And even the venomous ones, like a rattlesnake, venom is, they can't constrict. They can't squeeze their food. So the only way they can capture food is by using that venom. And so if they use it up on us, they have to go and hide for up to a couple of weeks to be able to grow or make more venom. That's something that their body has to produce, and it can only make that venom if they're full, they've had enough food. So most snakes are pretty shy. Remember, there's ones that are about this big, and as we come along your size or my size, they're like, ah, they think we're a predator and they want to leave. So we're going to have to end pretty soon, but I wanted to talk about why snakes are important. Snakes are very, very important in the world, and that's one of the reasons why we should just leave them alone. We shouldn't kill them. We should observe them, because snakes eat a lot of rodents, mice, rats. I know we don't think of squirrels and chipmunks as rodents because they're so cute, but they're rodents too, like mice and rats. Snakes will also eat birds. They can eat, the little snakes even like insects, and there's a lot of little snakes. They can eat a lot of variety of foods. So they're really important to having, to being part of the whole chain of food, web of life. And the other part is they're a good snack for a lot of animals. A lot of animals like to eat snakes. Can you think of anything that likes to eat a snake? Raise your hand if you can think of an animal that likes to eat a snake, might want to eat a snake. There's ones out there. Birds love to eat snakes. That's probably one of the main things, but a coyote would eat a snake. Humans eat snakes, some snakes. So they're very, very important. And if we don't have enough snakes, then we have too many rodents. And too many rodents isn't healthy for our environment. So they help keep everything in balance. So I want to thank you. I like how Crafty's coming right in the corner there. I want to thank you for coming to our Junior Cub program. Congratulations. You'll be getting an email saying that you've completed the program. Thank you for coming in. We'll let Crafty come in for the last bit of our program. Thank you for coming and joining in and learning about snakes and what they look like, what they eat, what that tongue is for, that they have no legs and they slither along using the muscles, and that they're really important in this world. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in. I'm going to lower your hands. Raise your hands if maybe you learned something new about snakes, about their eggs, or they're a carnivore, they only eat meat, or that they're kind of cool looking. Raise your hand if you learned something new. Looks like a lot of you learned something new. That's wonderful. I'm going to lower your hands again. I'm going to ask one more question. Raise your hands if you see a snake, you'll want to look at it, maybe a little bit closer, and it's not so scary. See if you can see how it moves, see the scale. Some of them are beautiful colors. Good. Looks like a lot of you would want to see a snake. Snakes are awesome. I really enjoy them. I appreciate Diane coming and sharing. She's been here coming. She's a volunteer at Big Basin, and she's been bringing her snakes the whole time I met her. And she's taught me a lot about them too. I didn't know so much about them before. So thank you for coming and joining. We're going to say goodbye. And there's going to be junior cub programs and junior ranger programs through August 6th. So I hope you signed up for some more. Thank you so much. And we're going to say goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.